I mean, by all accounts, it seems like he is putting the onus for these bomb threats on the Trump administration. Go ahead and roll it. We'll decide after this.
Welcome to Red Pilled Nation, where we celebrate common sense with a daily dose of the truth. If any further proof were needed that this particular candidate is woefully unprepared to manage a crisis, let alone shepherd the world's most vital city, look no further than his reaction to the election day chaos, where bomb threats were made to several polling stations in New Jersey. What he says will no doubt shock you. And further in this video, we have a scathing and justified response from the White House, addressing Mamdani's idiotic comments.
About an hour ago, there were several bomb threats that were called into some polling stations. One was in Mercer County, which is where the state capital is Trenton. The other was in Passaic County, which is in the north. Passaic County had a lot of Hispanic voters who came out 12 months ago and crossed from the Democratic Party to Donald Trump, and Trump actually won the county. Okay, so Mamdani has been out this morning already. This sound just into us. He was asked about the threats. And if you listen carefully, I mean, by all accounts, it seems like he is putting the onus for these bomb threats on the Trump administration. Go ahead and roll it. We'll decide after this.
It's incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
I don't know if he's going to get that question again today, but the general approach the Trump administration has taken to try and intimidate voters, unless we heard him incorrectly, what in the world is he talking about?
He is serving up a Kamala-sized word salad, but he's using kale instead of romaine. It's just a slightly better finessed verbiage than we were given with her. This is emptiness. It means nothing. What he's doing is deflecting because he doesn't have an answer for this, because he is not prepared if, God forbid, something like 9/11 happens again. Just think about that. Were you in New York on 9/11? Do you remember what happened to the city? Do you remember what happened to this country? Do you remember who was mayor and what was needed from that office? Could this person really provide that? I mean, it scares the hell out of me. I hope everyone has a plan with their kids if, God forbid, something happens.
When confronted with the alarming news of bomb threats targeting polling sites in New Jersey and potentially across the river into New York, Zohran Mamdani delivered a response that can only be accurately described as an utterly vacant Kamala-level word salad. It was a moment that demanded a basic across-the-board condemnation of violence, but instead we saw profound weakness and lack of preparation. His immediate knee-jerk deflection was to blame President Donald Trump. This appears to be his only prepared answer, his singular political reflex, proving he is entirely unprepared to lead in any scenario other than a scripted low-stakes debate. God forbid a genuine major emergency, a disaster, or a major attack like another 9/11 were to occur on his watch. And of course, when in doubt, blame Trump. He's the cause of everyone's problems. He has no meaningful experience to draw upon, having never held a truly substantive job. Yet he is now the mayor of the most powerful city on this planet. The candidate's failure to unequivocally condemn election-related intimidation fits into a broader pattern where certain segments of the left are perceived as selectively ignoring, justifying, or even tacitly supporting acts of political violence when perpetrated in the name of their ideological goals. This double standard undermines the political process and escalates tensions. And as we all know, the Democrats and the left constantly ignore threats of violence or just flat out shift the blame. For example, during politically charged protests, self-described anti-fascist groups, or Antifa, have frequently engaged in violent clashes with opposing demonstrators, police, and property damage, particularly in cities like Portland and Seattle. Critics argue that mainstream media and progressive politicians often describe these events as mostly peaceful, while downplaying the use of tactics like bricks explosives, and physical assault. Also, the sustained months-long assaults on the police and ICE agents during protests in cities across the country have been cited as examples of political violence, often excused or justified by some progressive voices as a necessary reaction to systemic injustice rather than condemned as criminal attacks on institutions. Let's also not forget about the shooting death of Charlie Kirk and the 2 attempted assassinations on President Trump himself, but it's doubtful that these folks will change their ways anytime soon. That is, until the violence they excuse or ignore sets up camp right at their doorstep and just doesn't leave.
Thank you, Caroline. Zohran Mamdani blamed the president for bomb threats and intimidation at polling locations. He said, quote, part of the general approach of the Trump administration has taken to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country. I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I saw those comments from Mamdani. I think they are completely irresponsible, and they are based on zero evidence. And I think this is just another example of how the Democrat Party unfortunately stands for nothing. All they stand against is President Donald Trump. And I think it's quite sad to see that we have someone at the top of the ticket on an election day today saying such things about the president when he obviously had absolutely nothing to do with those threats.
But what are your thoughts? Is Mamdani bringing in a new age of violence? Or do you think the left is worth redeeming? If you like our content, please give this video a like, a share, and also make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Your support sure does mean a lot.